Nurture and support begins in 3, 2, 1.
Hi, everybody, and welcome back to Nurture and Support, a recommendation podcast sharing all the awesome since 2013. I'm Kelly Toole at KELLYTHUL on Twitter, and with me, as always, advancing the Amazon Prime Directive is my good friend Mel.
Hey everybody, I'm Mel at Karmic9 on Twitter, and this is our special episode where we give you our top 2 picks that we've given in the last year. We'll have more on the blog post for you to check out, but we thought we'd only make you listen to our top 2 over again because, of course, you've listened to all the other episodes, so y'all are familiar with all of these recommendations.
I don't know. It might be nice just to go recommendation by recommendation. just read the blog. Just go through. And episode 2. That would be cool. Yeah, because this is show 52. So for 1 year of terror, Mel and I have been nurturing and supporting, sharing all the awesome. So it's been fun. So thank you, Mel. It's been very cool to do this. I've enjoyed it, and looking forward to continuing to do it.
Yep, we've got a year, at least another year in us, folks. Maybe.
Yep. Yeah, you never know. But it's interesting because they say the average podcast lasts 10 episodes. That kind of in that when people get, I'm gonna do a podcast and they get started. When you kind of look at all of them that are out there, 10 episodes is the average.
Wow.
So we're kind of kicking their butt. The average. So we're doing all right. So.
If only we could kick those knitters.
Yeah, I wish they'd stop.
They're persistent. Knitters are persistent. We know all about the long haul of working on a long project. So knitting podcasts, they go on forever.
Yeah. Curse those knitters, podcasting knitters. I got to keep I got podcasting knitters who podcast against us in our category. I got to keep refining it so that Mel doesn't fall in category as an enemy.
Because then he'd have to kick me off this show and get somebody else in here. Because I would
Mel,
be a knitter.
Yeah, then Mel and you'd start a knitting podcast, and we'd be looking up at that. So.
Yes, I almost sent you a link to a knitting podcast the other day.
That would be wasted energy, Mel. Wasted energy.
I was just going to show it to you. It's very popular.
I'm aware. That's what they are. Okay.
I didn't listen to it out of respect for you. I went, Kelly will know. He'll find out somehow. I listened to this podcast, so I'm not going to listen to it.
He's set up something, and if this, then that somehow checks if Mel listens to a knitting podcast, he gets a text. Yep, pretty much. That's what I did.
Yep.
Cool. Well, so our game plan is that I'll go ahead and after a full year of nurture and support, Mel and I each went back and looked across all the shows and kind of picked each of the recommendations we made, our top 2, which I'll share mine in a moment, and then Mel will share hers, and then we'll kind of finish the show up with us each sharing what was our favorite recommendation of the other person. So I'll share my favorite Mel recommendation of the year, and she'll do likewise. So that'll be fun. And then, as Mel mentioned on the blog post, we'll director's cut, a little extra information. We'll probably do the top 10 for each of us in terms of what our favorites were. And it was hard. I don't know how it went for you, but I liked all this stuff. I wouldn't have recommended it if I didn't like it. And so to actually say, well, which did I like more? It was kind of an interesting.
I knew what my top one was going to be. But yeah, the rest of them, that's tough because every one, I wouldn't have told y'all about it if I didn't like it.
That's right. Yeah, that would have been kind of fun to do predictions too, to see if I could guess what yours are. But it's tough. I bet you if I could throw out a couple, it would be in your top 10. But it's kind of tough when you get to the top 2. I don't know. Mm-hmm. So, but shockingly enough, Alice Cooper. Alice makes my top 10, but he does not make my top 2. So there's a shocker. Shock the world. But
yes.
But I'll go ahead and get started. And the first one, actually, and this is my number 1 all-time favorite recommendation for this year, and we're not doing social media because it'd be the Randy Orton RKO if we were doing social media, but we're not. But my favorite recommendation of this year was VivaJoeStrummer, Clash and Beyond. It was a really neat find on YouTube. So it had my favorite aspect, which was it was free, and it's a really enjoyable thing. It's Joe Strummer, for those of you who don't know, is the was a guitarist for the Clash. He's passed away, unfortunately, but he joined the Clash in the early days of the punk movement as the Sex Pistols were forming up and the Clash were forming up. He was working with a very successful pub band and kind of saw this punk thing was starting to catch on, and he moved over and joined the Clash very early, and then basically wrote the lyrics for the Clash the rest of the way through, and a lot of the music as well. And I just really enjoyed VivaJoeStrummer for a couple of reasons. One, we got to see the eventual improvement of Joe's teeth, which I mentioned to Mel at the time, is that Joe was a little dentally challenged in the early part, which fit for the punk movement pretty well, and things got straighter and cleaner and tighter as went by. But we get to see Joe overcome his dental issues, which is awesome for Joe. But you get a sense of kind of the guy. You talk to the guy that taught him how to play guitar. And the guy who taught him how to play guitar talks about kind of his style and what he did and described how Joe played. And then you'd see these clips and you'd start to make the connections. You get a little backstory on a lot of the songs that it wrote. And Joe tended to want to have a point to a lot of the things. And then where a lot of the Sex Pistols stuff was no future and anarchy and those types of things, Joe was, I'm mad and there's problems. But it was almost more constructive, and it was still challenging, but it wasn't just anger. It was targeted anger, and there was some insight to it. So it was fascinating to see that. And then I'm an old softy at heart, and so as you get towards the end where the Clash have separated, gone their separate ways, Joe has gone off and he's doing some stuff with several different groups, and he's up playing one night, and Mick Jones, who was really, Joe and Mick were the Clash, they were the two writers. You see Joe kind of spy him in the audience and wave him up to do about 3 or 4 Clash songs together, and to just see the pure happiness emanating from Mick Jones's face as he kind of gets asked to come up and perform, and Joe performing, and you could tell that it was just enjoyment. So it's just kind of neat to see that. And so it was fun. So I like when you can see these documentaries and you kind of come out and there hasn't been like a lot of character flaws cracked open. You're like, oh great, this is what this person was like. This was intriguing. I don't think it was a sanitized version or whatever, but it just kind of hit on some of the parts that were kind of neat to see. So I really enjoyed it. I've always been a really huge Clash fan. It was neat to learn a little bit more about Joe. And the music's obviously great, and it was just fun. And you get a little rock and roll history of the punk movement along with it. So it's just kind of a fun one. So that's my number one.
Cool. I would not have picked that.
Yeah. See, there you go. And I just trying to think. Probably I should have gone number 2. I don't know what order I was supposed to do it in, but that was my number 1. So that'll do my number 2, which I like too quite a bit. But number 2 is a game, and the game is Monument Valley. So Monument Valley is this, if you recall, and so by the way, VivaJoeStrummer was episode 12. Was when I made the recommendation for that. 19 episodes later, episode 31 is when Monument Valley was when I made that recommendation. And Monument Valley, available on both the iOS and Android platforms, is a puzzle game. It's a minimal number of levels, 10 maybe, although kind of a new update. There is actually available now until December 7th. Ida's Red level is now available. So if you have Monument Valley, you can go out and you can, through the app, buy the next level, or you can go to the store and buy Monument Valley with Ida's Red level. 100% of the proceeds for that level go for AIDS research. So
I saw that. I didn't know what it was about, so thank you.
Yeah. So that'll be, so the criticisms of the game is that it's not an inexpensive game, and it's not your 99 center, but you could get done with it if you sat down and just played it in a focused basis. You could get done with it in a couple hours and complete all the levels. but each level is so beautiful and complex, and it's to maybe if you didn't hear the episode, remind you if you did, the concept of Monument Valley is you're a little princess who's kind of moving from one spot to another, and I ended up being okay being a princess because you were helping guide the princess. You're not the princess, but you're helping guide the princess around these crows, and it's basically an Escher-like environment. Every level is just beautiful. It's a very kind of simple color palette, but geometric shapes and just very creative imagery, and kind of Escher, but with a little lighter pop to it. And so you get to a particular level, and everything's just, there's like Mobius strips and optical illusions and these types of things where you walk underneath and on top of things. You have to rotate certain items to get them to all kind of work and figure it out. So it's a puzzle solving thing that on a couple levels, you look at the level to begin with, you go, well, this is impossible. There's absolutely no way. But over time, you find out it's not. So it's beautiful to play. It's fun. It challenges you to kind of figure out what to do. It's just really enjoyable. Even when you're stuck, you're okay with it because it's just kind of cool to walk around. Then they do some of these nice things that like add one more level now, and use the proceeds to do something positive for society. So you got to even like that a little bit better. So it's I don't know of many games that have dedicated fan art that people go and either whether it's screenshots or they do some other things that related to the game that kind of replicate, but they spent a lot of time on the look. This was intended to be an interactive piece of art, and they've achieved that really well. So you will get several hours of enjoyment. The replay is still good because you would have figured it out, but if you're blessed with a short memory retention like me, it'll be, oh, I knew there's a way. So it's a fun thing. So Monument Valley would be my second one. I typically don't like to pay for games on my phone or a tablet. Did not mind at all paying for this one. It was really enjoyable, worth the money as far as I'm concerned, and a fun game. So VivaJoeStrummer and Monument Valley for 1 year of nurturing and supporting. Those would be my top two.
And I could possibly be wrong, but I want to say I think maybe it's available on Steam now for PC players. A lot of those games are coming out on Steam, so that would be another way. Let me see if I can look it up real quick.
Yeah, they've got it for the Kindle Fire and the Apple Down Store and Google Play on when I've just looked at the site, but I don't know.
I might be thinking of another one like it.
Yeah. It was cool that I did see him just kind of getting ready, and I didn't even think about this. What a tremendously awesome idea. They had pictures of somebody who had their little kids dress up as two of them were crows and one of them was Ida for a trick or treat. So you had, and they nailed, the crows, which are basically like a teardrop shaped head with a big eye, and they nailed it. It was perfect. It's like, what a great idea. So.
Yeah. Okay. I guess I'm wrong. I'm sorry. So that makes it my turn. And like I mentioned, I had my top pick. Basically, the reason it's my top pick is because I keep catching myself wanting to go back and reread or re-listen to this book. And shocker, my top pick is the book. That's to the surprise of no one. I've wanted to go back, and I found myself wanting to re-listen to this book because this is one of the ones that I really like the audiobook as well as reading the book. And that's kind of why it's my top pick, because I kept having to stop myself because I have such a huge pile of books that I need to read that I was like, no, I shouldn't be going back and rereading something that I've just read, but I enjoyed it so much that I keep wanting to go back. So my top pick for the year, Mel's all-time favorite recommendation this year, is The Martian by Andy Weir. And I just love that book. It's not the greatest work of literature out there, but it is a fun book. If you have any, I don't even personally think that you need to have a big interest in science fiction to enjoy this book. It's very near future when we are making regular manned missions to Mars. And what happens to Mark Watney, the main character of the book, and he is the primary voice that you're going to be reading about in the entire book. It's kind of a whole one-man operation. There's only a very few other characters that get any sort of page time in this book. Mark Watney is accidentally left behind on Mars during a freak accident where the rest of his crew thinks that he has died, and they are having to evacuate after having just got there. They've only been there for a few days, and they leave him, and he has no way to communicate with them, no way to communicate with Earth, and he has to somehow find a way to stay alive until a rescue mission, or the next mission actually, because it's not like we can just hop a shuttle and be in Mars in a day. He has to wait for the next mission, and he has to find a way to make that work, because the vehicle that would have gotten him off of Mars, the rest of his crew has taken. So he's got to wait. I forget if it's he's got to make it a year or 2 years. He has it all worked out. If you're old like me and you remember MacGyver, you will really get a MacGyver feel out of the things that Mark Watney has to do to stay alive. And he's very good at it, and you would think me in this situation would be, I give up. I give up. I'm just going to lay down here in the red dust of Mars and die. That would be me. Mark Watney's he's a great character in that he never gives up, and that's one of the things I really loved about this book. To me, it was very inspiring for the American space program that we are trying right now desperately to rebuild. So I really, really, really loved this book. It is so fun. And when I read it, it reads like I could see pictures of scenes of this being a movie in my head. This is being turned into a movie directed by Ridley Scott. And I was really worried about this when they started talking about it, of who was going to play Mark Watney, because, like I said, he is the main character of this entire book. There's very few other characters that get very much time given to them, because this is a book about him and how he manages or not to survive and try to stay alive on this planet and get himself out of this predicament. And they got Matt Damon to play this role, and I think that he can do a really good job. So I'm super excited about this movie. One, given that Ridley Scott is directing, they've got Matt Damon playing the main character. I imagine they're going to have to change it up a little bit to give some other people more screen time. But I think it's worth mentioning that I checked on any updates, and they've got Sean Bean listed on IMDb to play one of the characters in here. And I can't tell you, unless they change the book, I'm going to tell you right now, I'm going to spoil it for you. Sean Bean is going to live through this movie.
It won't happen. It will not. Sean does not live. It does not happen. It's not his fault. But
yeah. So that was fun. I got a good chuckle out of that when I saw that, and I was like, well, I'm pretty sure unless they make some drastic changes to the book, Sean Bean's gonna live through this one, and that will be amazing. But if they can find a way to kill him off, that would also be great too.
It would be.
So the movie they've actually just released when they're expecting it to come out, which will be basically about next Thanksgiving. So November 2015 is when they're scheduled to be releasing. So keep your eyes on that movie. I absolutely love this book. I'm really, really hopeful about the movie. The audiobook for this book is amazing as well. The narrator does an excellent job. And I just can't say enough about it. I loved it. It was enjoyable while being realistic. It's not far-flung science fiction. This is basically very near future. This could be happening in the next couple of years. And Mark Watney is just really one of the greatest sort of adventuresome little heroes you could come up with on how he gets himself out of some of these situations. He's got a very complicated relationship with duct tape and potatoes on Mars, and it's just great fun, and I cannot recommend it enough. So that is my top pick for the year. The Martian by Andy Weir, which I want to mention was self-published and did so well as a self-published book that he got a publisher and that's when it got a major release. But the book came out in 2012. He self-published it, and it did so well that it got him noticed by the big publishing house. And so there you go. So, you can't knock self-publishers all the time out there, folks. Some of them are really good. And I love this book. It couldn't be any better. So, my second recommendation was actually not only recommended by me. Oh, and I should say, The Martian was episode 22, by the way. I meant to mention that. So my next recommendation actually got recommended twice on Nurture and Support, once by me, once by Matt Shivers. So that was going to be in episode 7 and episode 20, and it's the app called Zombies Run. This is the running app that tells you a zombie story as you use it to run, basically. And I'm not talking about virtual running. I'm talking about actually running on a treadmill or on pavement. Or, as I said when I talked about it before, there's nothing to actually say you have to be running. You could just be walking. It's a great story that gets you moving and doing something while you're listening to a good enjoyable story. To me, it was just really amazing, because it's got to be hard to make a story like this, where the whole premise of you're playing a main character called Runner 5, where you have to be moving all of the time, because that's the point. If the character is standing still, you're supposed to be this character. If your character is standing still, then obviously you're not doing the exercise that you're supposed to be doing, which is the point of the app. So it takes really kind of a special flair for that kind of writing to figure out how to get all of that done. It's currently in season 3. It's not a cheap app, but for the basic app price, I think you get all of season 1, and that will show you whether you like it or not. And then you can go in and buy the rest of the seasons. I didn't check current pricing on that, but I want to say I think it was $10 to get the basic app with season 1, and I didn't check current pricing. I know some of the app stuff has changed recently with iOS 8, and I haven't looked and updated any of that because I already own all of them. But they've branched out and gotten some well-known writers to help write some of the later seasons. But season 1 is great and will tell you the basics of the story, and will show you whether you really enjoy using it or not. And it's got glowing reviews everywhere. I know for me, I wanted to keep doing it so I could find out what happens in the story. And surprisingly enough, it has some really emotional zombie, life in the zombie apocalypse moments in it. So, I will warn you, there might come an episode or two where you find yourself crying on the street because of something that happens in this app. But it's very enjoyable. I love it. I occasionally fall off the wagon and don't listen to it, but then it's one of those things where, I never finished what was happening on that story. So it does move me into, I need to go do a little jog just to catch up on my zombie story. So it's like a little soap opera. You have to go back and listen to it over and over so that you can catch up. So it's great, and I love it, and Matt Shivers likes it too. So it is by Six to Start, and it's available on iOS and Android. Though they tend to update the iOS version a little faster than they update the Android version. But I think both of them are working very well right now. There have been some hiccups back when they were moving around in season 2. But it's all back to normal. And if you took the previous recommendation, if you don't know, if you go to their website, zombiesrungame.com, they have a shop where you can buy Runner 5 t-shirts and things like that. I see pictures from marathons all the time, or little fun runs, things like that, where people are dressed up as Runner 5, and it's cute. It's a popular little app, and I like it. I think it's great. So it's zombies, a little bit of exercise, which we all need more. I know I do, because I like to sit and play too many computer games. So it's great all around, and that's my number 2 recommendation for the year, of probably one of the apps I use the most, is Zombies Run by Six to Start. So get it.
Very cool. Yeah, and then of course, Sean Bean dies, and, we're sad.
If he ever makes an appearance in Zombies Run, I know he's doomed.
He's dead. He's gone.
Yes.
We'll just know he's coming through. Good. All right. Yeah. Cool. So we'll switch her back over to me for a second, and then just the other one. It was tough to get to the two, and also then now we're going to kind of talk about our favorite from each other. It was hard to get to both of those numbers. On the ones of mine, the other one that came close was I almost put Special Forces by Alice Cooper up there because that was the recommendation that got Mel on a future show to go, Alice, Alice, which was cool. So anytime we can get Mel calling for Alice, it's a good sign. So.
Yes.
But that's in the top 10, so spoiler. We'll get there and there. But for Mel's recommendation, was not easy. As I mentioned, there were a couple things. Romantically apocalyptic was very, very cool. I've enjoyed that. I haven't gotten as deep into it as I picked up some Steam initially. It's very cool. I gotta get back to it. It's a time thing, but very cool, beautiful type of thing. And of course, Underwood and Flint, huge in there. But so lots and lots of good things. But and we're a podcast, so all you can do is hear me. You can't see what is behind me, but the recommendation that I'm going to pick of Mel's, she did way back in episode 3. Which was Loot Crate. And so I took her up on that, and I have been getting them ever since that, shortly after that show. And now behind me is the results of that. All sorts of a wall of loot, little characters, a Groot, boxes, all sorts of very interesting things there. So it is having a long week, a long month, or whatever. You just hang in there because get towards the end of the month, around the 20th and 22nd. I'm going to get a box, and there's going to be some cool stuff in it, including recently a black T-shirt with a bunch of kittens designed to make the kittens are designed into a skull shape, and it's just the most awesome thing ever. And a lot of these things are exclusive Loot Crate only, so you can't get the kitten skull shirt anywhere else but as a looter. So so they've been every month. It's always fun. There's always one or two things in there that I think are really cool. Ironically enough, one of Mel's other recommendations, How to Survive a Sharknado, came in a Loot Crate.
I know, we were crazy. I was like, damn, I just recommended that.
Yeah. So that was very cool, which I had already gotten and gone out and bought online a copy of that per your recommendation. And so that's the other thing. One of these days is, and maybe not just out of Mel in my pocketbook, but other people who have taken this up on any of our recommendations. We'd like to quantify the economic impact of nurture and support, and I think it'll be of interest if we add it up. But we'd need to hear from you folks to say, hey, yeah, I went and bought that CD, or I got that album, or I downloaded this, or whatever. But it free's good too. So, but it's kind of cool there. So a lot of good recommendations, but I'm going to go with Loot Crate, and it's been glad you recommended it. Had been mentioned to me before, but only through the power of persuasion of Mel did I actually then turn to put the money down and start getting on a monthly basis, and I'm awful glad I did. So.
And I should mention that for some reason you get yours way earlier than I get mine.
Yeah, I know. I've noticed that. But,
and that irks me because you'll end up also winning one of the mega crates way before me. And when that happens, I'm going to be really, really angry.
Yeah, that's going to be a struggle because I'm going to want to share that I want it, but I'm going to have to figure out a way to do it that you don't find out. That's going to be a problem. So.
Yeah, because I'm going to be super mad when Kelly wins a mega crate before I do. Because it's happening. I know it. I just feel it. He gets his crate like 3 or 4 days before I get mine. And I'm like, I've been looting longer. I should be higher up on the mailing list. So, yeah, I love Loot Crate, and every time I try to, I look at the budget and do a budget review, I'm like, but I need my Loot Crate, and it wins through for another 3 months. Loot Crate is awesome. If y'all have not looked at Loot Crate, you really should. So, my top recommendation that Kelly gave. It was a hard one because Kelly has really opened my eyes to Alice Cooper and The Clash and all of these musical groups that I really hadn't heard of. Gorgo Bordello is one of them. Tony OK, who I really enjoy. I didn't know anything about any of these people where Kelly told me all about them. So my top recommendation is one that we've talked about a lot recently because I have been very remiss in not watching this movie, but it also is very musical. So I'm sure Kelly's not surprised now, but I finally watched Suck.
Yes, I am surprised. I'm delighted. I got really excited when I figured out this was gonna be when as soon as I pieced it together, it's like she's actually watched it. Yes.
Yes, I actually watched Suck, and it was awesome. I loved that movie. I can't believe that I've owned that DVD for so long, and I haven't watched it. But there you go. I bought this DVD ages ago. Kelly didn't even know I had it. He recommended it, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I have that DVD, and I still haven't watched it. I finally sat down and watched it because I promised him that I would, and it was a work of art. It is truly, truly a great vampire rock band movie. Alice Cooper, Henry Rollins, Iggy Pop. It was just great. In fact, Kelly, if you want to talk about economic impact, I enjoyed this movie so much. Did you know that there's a soundtrack available?
I did not.
It's only available. Amazon doesn't have it. It's available on iTunes though,
Okay.
and I downloaded it. Oh, so Suck is the story of a little rock band that's not doing all that great, and their bass player is a girl named Jennifer, and she gets turned into a vampire, and all of a sudden she is like super hot, and the fans just really, really love her, and they start climbing up the charts. And before you know, here's the question. Should they all be vampires? Should they not be vampires? We've got some freaky dream sequences with Alice Cooper, who's originally a bartender. And then by the end of the movie, he might just be the Lord of all evil. It's hard to tell. So it's a super fun movie if you like vampires and rock music. It's great. And I have to say, like I said, I bought the soundtrack because I actually, as I'm watching the movie, I'm like, I like this song. So I looked it up as soon as I was done with the movie. I looked it up to see if there was a soundtrack available because I have quite a soundtrack collection. And there it was on iTunes. And I don't like buying music from iTunes. I buy most of my music from Amazon, even the digital music, even though I have an iPhone. So there you go. It's one of only a handful of things, of music, of non-apps that I have bought through iTunes. So the Suck soundtrack is right there. Y'all will really enjoy this movie. It is unfortunately not on Netflix, but the DVD, and it's out in Blu-ray. I have the DVD, but it's really, really enjoyable. I really loved it. So thank you, Kelly. That was a great recommendation. And you're right. I was gonna send you an email, but I didn't want to give the surprise away.
So awesome. It was so great because I watched it a while back and enjoyed it, and then just recently, I'm gonna watch it again. And then I said, wow, I really, really like this movie. I bet you Mel would really like it too. And because there's just it just hits a lot of neat beats, and it is fun, and of I don't know, it's a fun one when
Hugo is so great.
Hugo is awesome. The manager is hilarious. Their manager, who suggests they fire him, talks about Japanese hip hop. It's going to be huge. He's hilarious. It's all great. And I just early in the movie when she gets turned into a vampire because she doesn't want to sleep in the van because it's cramped and it smells like Drummer.
But it's not a van. It's a hearse.
It's a hearse and it's cramped and it smells like Drummer. And the drummer was hilarious. So it was all good. Yeah, cool. Well, I'm glad you watched it. I'm glad you enjoyed it. I was pretty confident you would.
Yeah, I watched it. I went, yeah, I see exactly why. Kelly knew I'd like this movie. It's great. I need to watch it again. And that's a sign of a great movie, is when I've just watched it and I'm like, I need to watch this again, because I know there was just too much awesome going on and I missed some of the little nuances. So it was great. But yeah, Alice Cooper is right there immediately. You're like, that's Alice Cooper. So it was awesome, y'all.
The waitress in that scene, the first one, is his daughter.
Yeah,
Calico.
I saw that, and I saw that at the end credits. And I was like, that's got to be Alice Cooper's daughter. Yeah.
So good. So cool. Very, very good. Well, there we go. You've heard our favorites and our favorites of each other. It's been a fun year. We thank everybody for the support that they've offered us. It's been fun. Mel and I have enjoyed doing this. It's all the more enjoyable when we hear from you, either if you liked an episode or liked a recommendation, left a comment, or whatever. It means a lot, and so thanks for when you do that, and we're going to keep trying to do interesting stuff for you to comment and listen and take us up on recommendations on.
Absolutely. So yeah, if you've taken any of our recommendations and you would like to tell us that, hey, it's awesome, thank you, we would love to hear it. We really would, because that's why we do this. We like to share, like to build a community of sharing people who enjoy sharing the awesome, because that's what we do every week, is try to find awesome things that we think all of you would like, because we like them and all of you are just like us, right? Absolutely. Alice Cooper. So
yep.
It's been fun. I've really enjoyed all of this, so thank you, Kelly, for doing this with me, because I wouldn't have done it otherwise.
Cool. It's been fun. We got a year down. We'll keep going. It'll be fun. And even the best part of it is, you get to record stuff. So we're going to be able to hand it over to Matt, and he's not here. And that's awesome, too, because Matt's a little irritating, but he's got a great radio voice. So we're going to hand it over to Matt. He's going to tell you all the information on how you can connect up with us through the blog, through email, Twitter, etc. And we'll be back for episode 53 next week.
That's right. See you, folks.
Bye.
You can contact us on our website, nurtureandsupport.net, or email us at nurtandsupp@gmail.com. That's NURTANDSUPP@gmail.com. Or tweet us at nurtandsupp on Twitter.
Nurturing and supporting Terminated.